Good morning. I'm Janine Terrano, and I'm honored to be here today to talk about a very important topic, our children. And today I would like to offer this question: what if we teach the whole child? Not just part of the child, but the whole child. I'm operating on three assumptions. The first is that I believe children are naturally joyous. I believe children are naturally curious. And I believe children are not afraid of the complex. Have you ever seen a 5-year-old dump out a box of Legos and suddenly 10 minutes later you have the perfect replica of the Starship Enterprise? It's amazing. Equally magical is to watch children with blocks. They match them, count them, create complex patterns, build wonderful structures, interact with each other. They have a great time doing it, and there's teamwork involved. They also approach art and music the same way. They will make music out of absolutely everything, and they will create art out of absolutely anything. My daughter had Make Your Own Hat Day in 2nd grade. She left the house with aluminum foil and her own shoe on her head. And I will tell you, it looked like a hat. But then something magically and unfortunately changes. This wonderful creative world becomes highly focused and rigorous, all in the name of preparing our children for the workforce. Suddenly they're told to do certain things with blocks. They have limitations. They can count them, they can find patterns, they can even sort them, but they will be responsible for telling the molecular structure of them, and they will be tested on it. So now what happens to the rest of their being? What happens to this wonderfully multidimensional creative world when suddenly they are faced with a singularly focused intellectual pursuit? And how do we find the next greats? How do we find the composers, the artists, the writers, the dancers, the choreographers? Take Twyla Tharp, for example, a choreographer that changed dance forever. But as a middle school student, Twyla Tharp was considered a problem child, an outcast, soon to be expelled from school, if not for the principal and her mother that actually saved her, because they recognized she was a dancer, and they knew that was good. Well, I say that we need more Twylas in the world. But the fact of the matter is that resources are limited. Many children do not have access to these resources. We know about the systematic cuts being taken in our school for these programs. But it's more than the budget cuts. It's how we think about it. We actually use statistics like, you should study music because it'll make you better at math. It's a little bit like saying Michelangelo only existed to make Isaac Newton better. They're equally important. They're very important for us. And ironically, we tell adults, you must think out of the box. You must be creative. Push the boundaries. Move outside the lines. Bring your own unique thinking. Maybe it's time that we ask the real question. Why is there a box? Who designed the box? And more importantly, why are so many of our children inside that box? This is a very important question. But we can do the right thing. We can give equal time to poetry, literature, math, science. We can help our children embrace their whole world with equal respect for all their talents. Don't leave any of them out. Let them decide. Are they a mathematician or are they a musician? It's equally important. If you look up Renaissance figures on Google, you will find mathematicians are held in the highest regard, equal to dance masters. It's very important. And isn't it also important that we teach our children not only how to understand our world and define it, but how to find joy and beauty in it? And more importantly, how do they find joy and beauty in their place in this world? It's time to let our children out of the box. And perhaps we shouldn't put them in a box in the first place. We should embrace all of their talents, teach their whole being. After all, as an employer, this is what we look for. We look for joyous, happy, creative people that are endlessly curious, not afraid of the complex, and can think outside that box. We must demand more for our children. We must fiercely protect their very nature. We must ensure that there is more for them than just training for the workforce. I leave you with the words of Ursula Le Guin, the famous science fiction writer. The creative adult is the child who has survived. Thank you.